Southwest Fire Academy was established in 2015 as a response to the recognized need for quality, safe, and affordable fire and rescue training in Ontario. This is not your average fire college. SFA has high standards for their students, and it is their mission to teach and produce qualified, ambitious firefighters who are prepared to work hard to serve their communities. This is not a diploma mill. This is where you can learn strategic, aggressive firefighting from passionate, intelligent instructors who never forget why they were made to do this job. SFA is an accredited private career college that is regulated by the Ministry of Training, colleges, and universities, with a memorandum of understanding with the Office of the Fire Marshal. This means that SFA is an approved training provider with the OFM, and the programs are recognized in Ontario. Check out their pre-service and expanding selection of course offerings at southwestfireacademy.ca. Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 96 of Multiple Calls. I'm Scott Hewlett. The early 2000s game show that Joe Rogan hosted was called Fear Factor, not Danger Factor. The contestants were never actually in danger, but they were very much afraid. Completing an evolution at height, wearing a fail-proof fall arrest system, isn't dangerous. There is no risk of injury or death. The opportunity should actually be thrilling and fun, but instead, they were terrified. When someone calls us for a barbecue fire on their back deck, and we arrive and put it out, they think we're heroes. But we know that it's not a big deal. Even a firefighter that has barely paid attention through their career was able to take up enough knowledge and training to understand the minimal risk of the incident. The homeowner's tolerance for risk is smaller because they don't know that our gear and attack packages bring our level of risk in the face of that danger down to almost zero. Where some fire service members fail is their inability to scale that up. They don't have the epiphany that their change in perspective on risk was due to knowledge and training, and wonder where the limit of their safety actually is. Step one isn't the only step. They don't understand that they are still unconsciously incompetent, that there are more levels to the awakening. If firefighters and captains don't continue to learn, train, and challenge their false fears at real incidents, surviving unscathed, they will continue to operate in their unexpanded safety bubble. If chiefs don't train with their crews and challenge their false fears at incidents and allow their crews to do their job, they too will be unaware of what is actually possible and default to reluctance. In the face of egoic and stubborn members of any rank, not being humble or curious enough to remove their ignorance of the fact that safety is a result of competence and trust, only one thing will make it personal enough for them to change. And shamefully, it's not necessarily the loss of citizens' lives, because our ownership of when we could have had an impact on that is excused away all the time. Ironically, it's liability. The individual and departmental liability for inaction needs to be greater than the liability for action. Litigation is a supply and demand system. Until the danger of personal cost, from firefighters to chiefs, is more real than the misplaced fear of risk on the fireground, nothing will budge them. It doesn't have to go there. We have the choice. We can be scared, or we can be prepared. Here's my third chat with Manny.
Hey, brother.
What's going on? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been.
I've been getting ready for paramedic class, and I've had a litany of things I had to check off and things I had to do, get done. But no, man, I'm ready. I'm excited, man. It's been a little while.
Why don't you start with that, man? Start with the switch and why that happened and how you're feeling about it. Just dive into it.
Yeah, I start here next month, early next month. I'm lucky I get a little vacation before we go out there. I thought about it a lot. When I decided to test, I knew that there was a very high probability with the way my department set up that I would be going to EMS. And when I joined, I kind of joined because I wanted to be a fireman, and EMS was just a byproduct of that and something we do. And I got in a few years and I started contemplating how I was going to skate out of that and how I was going to avoid it, because I want to stay in fire and I've dedicated a lot of time and energy to that. and money, a lot of money, going to conferences and stuff that a lot of people don't know that when you're invested, you're going to do all those extra steps. But I thought about it a lot. And for my career, me personally, I was like, man, I want to know every part of this job. And it's a big part of what we do. And avoiding it and say you're going to avoid it is kind of the easy way out. And I've never avoided a fight. I've never backed down from a challenge. And not that it even needed to be a fight to go to EMS or EMS division, which is a very, very world class EMS. I decided, I was like, man, let's just do it. There's benefits to going, obviously more money for us. But in order to promote, for me, what I consider a well-rounded firefighter, it was just something for me personally that I wanted. And that's not to say you cannot be a great firefighter, fire officer, which is my end goal. I want to be a fire officer that you absolutely have to go, because I've had two officers that never went, and they're stellar. I mean stellar, second to none fire officers that I want to emulate, to be like calm under fire, literally never yelled, got their point across on what they wanted on medical calls and on fires. Especially for me, it was just like, man, I need to do this. Maybe, I don't know if it was an ego thing, that I just want to know what I'm doing on medical calls a little bit more so. But career wise, for sure, was number one. And then the benefits that go with it doesn't hurt either. I'll be able to take care of my family a lot better. And that kind of sealed the deal for sure. I was on the fence career wise, but the family part, without question, I love firefighting. I love my family even more.
So why do some guys that want to go through to be officers have to do EMS and some don't?
I think it's just how train of thought guys have here. And I'm glad you asked that, because that was something maybe I wanted to talk about. I do want to talk about. Some people see it as taking the easy way out if you don't go, and you didn't take your lumps and go to the EMS division, which the box gets pounded every shift. There are those people that will look down on you if you didn't go. I wasn't one of those, because I've had great examples of people who didn't go. The common adage I hear a lot from people that did go, it'll make you a better officer. It'll make you a better officer. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because we just went over that. I had two stellar officers who didn't go. But for me, I've been using the term make me a more complete officer, not necessarily better. More complete, yes. I never liked that part of it, because how is anything but fire experience going to make you a better at fire? Fortunately, at this point in my career, I'm going on 8 years, that I've had a fair amount of fire experience in the positions I feel that one should have experience on, nozzle time and driving, stuff like that. And I would say that fire experience to make you a better fire officer is critical. But also, we've spoken before about EMS is a big part of what we do, and there's no avoiding that. And to better serve your community, it is good that you're very well versed in EMS. I'd like to improve my skills. I think it'll benefit me in life in general. I tried to lie to myself for a long time, like, no, I don't need it. Common thing that guys would say in our department is, I want that experience. And maybe I was looking at that quote the wrong way. When I would hear them say that, I need that experience, or I want that experience, maybe negatively, I was interpreting it as they need that experience. They need that, whereas I don't need it for my life experience. When in fact, I think I was just misreading the way they were getting that point across, in the sense that I think everybody could benefit from it. I'm almost 40 years old, and if you stay still and stay stagnant, then I don't feel like you're doing any good to anybody around you. And I just want to grow. I want to grow as a person. I want to grow as a firefighter. And I want to grow for the people around me, especially my family. So maybe I was looking at it the wrong way for a long time, and I don't feel like that's the right mentality to have. And I made a switch, and it was a genuine one. I was driving my son to California. We just helped him get a brand new truck, and we're driving into California, and I'm like, man, I could better support or help him out long distance, because he's in the Marines. He's in the sniper platoon now and doing hard things. And I'm just overall, that just kind of made the switch. Family first, no matter what. The fire service is going to do good without me. The fire side of the fire service is going to do good without me. It doesn't need me being too vocal. So figure, hey, let's jump into the abyss that is the EMS system, because you don't really get to make the world changing instances like you would in fire, because it's two different dynamics. When you're on scene, you get to call a doctor to help you out. When you're in the nozzle, you're by yourself in that house fire. It's you or nobody, and you and God, actually. And it's two different, very dynamics. So two different sides of the same coin. That just kind of set the tone for me. Let's go. Let's do it. Not too old in my career. My end goal is not to be a paramedic. It's just a part of the process, but I'm going to enjoy it while I'm doing it. But I want to be a fire officer. I think that's my calling, and that's what I want to do.
So how long would you have to be on the EMS side before you could come back as a fire officer?
It's 3 years. And it's 3 years because when you promote to engineer in my department, it's almost automatic. I could have avoided it. I really could have. We have so many now that volunteer for the EMS system for the benefits, higher pay, a little more time off, the schedule's a little bit better. You can benefit from going. So 3 years is the minimum, because we can promote after 3 years. So I'd be kind of locked in. So the way I figured is, I got 3 years no matter what. I can stay stagnant doing what I've been doing, or I can grow and take those 3 years to advance my career and be more competitive. And who knows what will happen. And injuries, I'm getting older. I can make myself more flexible for my department. That's the way I saw it. After those 3 years, study my butt off to try to make lieutenant, try to do good things there.
Do you think it's going to help you going into this, that you've never really been out of the books or stopped writing papers? You've been doing that as a firefighter, right? You've been a pretty prolific reader and a student of the craft. So do you think that's going to help you to dive into this academic? I could say more academic, but there probably is more academics in regards to this. I remember doing the program. So how does that land with you?
I know it's going to be a different aspect of what we do, but everything's relative. I mean, I think there's always going to be those similarities between anatomy and fire, because everything's related. Every single thing is related. It's going to be helpful for me to find good analogies for sure to the fire ground. And I hope the fire ground analogies help me with paramedic stuff. And just the other day, and I'll give it to my guys, man, to our medics in my department. They hear you're going to EMS. I've had nothing but well-wishing. I've had nothing but encouragement from guys. Hey, man, you'll be all right. Class kind of sucked, but you'll be all right. That was surprising to me. Not in a bad way, but it was like, man, people really care whether you do good or not. And everybody's been giving me kind words and words of encouragement, like I said. And I was talking to a medic the other day. Didn't really know him that well. I was working at a station I don't usually work at. And I was telling him my approach. He's like, man, yeah, what do you think? And I was like, well, my approach is, I think there's a basics to everything. There's a basic to every single subject. And that's the way I'm going to approach this. What are the basics of being a paramedic, and try to really hone in on those and then build from that. And hopefully that leads me down the right direction. I feel it will, because it's something in my life that I found is been beneficial over and over and over again. We kind of beat that term to death in the fire service, the basics, but it's true. I'm going to use that format for being a paramedic and trying to be a good paramedic, keep my head down and do what's right for the patients and my community.
Well, you'll still be dealing with pump, pipes, and fluid and pressures.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I like how you mentioned that. I'm excited. It's been a little bit bittersweet having to leave my guys. I've been kind of floating around the district, being in charge of other semi in charge, as we call it, being in charge. You are for that day, but you're in charge at fires, which I've been lucky enough to be in charge of. And you're in charge of scenes that can be a little hectic. And just within the last month, I was like, man, okay, it's good to know how you're going to react to things when it's like you're the guy now. So it has to make those calls, and have to realize too that it's not all on you either. You got guys that are with you. You got to trust them too, because they got skin in the game and they got experience, and more brain power is better than one person micromanaging. And for sure, it's gone pretty smooth, even though the calls we went to are pretty bad, whether it's traumatic or fires or whatnot. And just learning and being able to work with some of the people I think I've mentioned, kind of roundabout. The last time we've talked, some of the guys that have 30 years on the nozzle, more nozzle time, more experience than anybody west of the Mississippi. And I don't say that lightly, having to see them in action. I thought I was good. I thought I was good, but no, it's just been a good experience to get a little taste of it. And I want more. I want more of being able to run my own company, but God willing, I will one day, maybe sooner, hopefully. But right now, this is the next step in my career, and I'm going to try to make the most of it while I'm doing it.
It's good to find opportunities to be the rookie again.
Hopefully I'll find that passion and try to find a semblance of it in what I did with firefighting, my aspect on it, on attack specifically. I think it's time.
And you're not only going to be dealing with patients that are chest pain calls, stroke calls, diabetics, but MVCs, right? And now you'll see the MVC from the perspective of a medic and from the perspective of a firefighter. And if you go to fire calls and patients get pulled out, you're going to see patients from that end of fires. And it's really going to open up your perspective.
MVCs, those are things we go to all the time, and shootings, it doesn't matter. But you see one aspect of it now, having seen the flip side of it, a little bit of, okay, now you're not actively helping that patient. You're taking a step back to see what's going on the bigger picture and taking care of your guys, because somebody's got to watch their back. Even though everybody wants to work and be the one not labeled as that blister, somebody's got to take a step back and make sure we're watching each other's back, not getting hit from a car or whatever. And just the other day, we went to a 3-vehicle MVC in one of the busiest streets, all 3 cars totaled. And that was good, because when you have good guys, everything goes smooth. Like, just having to realize that and reiterating that it's not all on you either. Like, you're a team. But it was good. It was good to, especially like on fires, when I was in charge of the apparatus, having to make our initial report and do our 360. Like, the first time was horrible, but even just doing it once and getting used to getting that rep and getting good reps after that, I was fortunate to go to more than a handful first in reports and making them. You realize, hey, all right, like, it does translate. If you try to be a really good firefighter and you try to know as much as you can and you have that experience to lean back on, it does translate. That was really eye-opening, and it was really encouraging that, man, I could do this. And I felt confident, and maybe not a false confidence, because for the longest time I had that imposter syndrome. Like, man, do I really belong here? Do I really belong to have people look up to me, or at least look up to some of the work I've done? And I still don't feel worthy enough, even though I've disappeared for the last year or so, and tried to focus on my career more than anything, and family for sure, number one, but my career as well. And it was good. It was good to know that I got what it takes. And I think anybody that puts in the work and does have that as well, and you'll find it. You just got to make your mistakes, get your mistakes in.
Well, yeah, you're no stranger to putting in the work and doing reps, that's for sure. So you're just applying that same thing to the new direction.
How have you been? What's new with you? Let's reverse this real quick.
Took a training officer position.
Nice.
And another department, so it's been going well. Still volunteering in my hometown, so I'm still riding the trucks whenever I can.
Love it. What does a training officer tell? You're going over everything from, like, I'm sure you guys have like state-sponsored skills that you need to hit on. Is that something you have to hone in on, or do they give you a little bit more freedom?
Yeah, you're teaching recruits, right? There's a recruit class, and then every department kind of builds their own program. There are some standards you have to hit, but there's a little leeway there. And yeah, there are standards you have to keep up within your department. But then there's also, areas you can look at where you're lagging behind and where you're doing well, and yeah, what you need to focus more on. So most departments, if they have a few training officers, they kind of split up the workload and take a portfolio and work away at it. So that's kind of how it works where I'm at right now.
Nice. I'm happy for you, man. I mean, that's a good resume builder. And I think more so than that, that's a good way of influencing younger minds to what you feel is important. And you've obviously gotten to where you're at because a lot of people believe what you preach is important. And the level of firemanship that you spread is important. So it's a good position.
Well, I learned from the best, man.
You've talked to everybody, man, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, you included. I spent some time as a training officer in my previous department too. Did 3 years and a bit there, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. And where I'm at has a great culture. really good people that are striving and driving towards being really good. So it's more of supporting that and bolstering that, right? Encouraging it and helping it move along, as opposed to you could go to some places where it's hard to get everybody moving, right? And there's a lot of onus on the training officer to do that. But I very much feel in this situation that I'm kind of just supporting the momentum that's already there. A lot of like-minded people.
Taking what they give to you and building on it. There's always those guys are like, oh, this department needs so much work, or this department's got it figured out. And I see both as a positive. The ones that are already mostly there and getting people moving is easy. Y'all can push the envelope a little bit. But there's also the ones that need help, the ones that are behind. And I always saw it as a challenge because my department was one of those too. For the longest time, training wasn't all that important. We just did. Guys just relied on the skills that they learn through going and doing, which isn't bad, but it's also, man, you want to know what you're going to do before you get there, or at least practiced it. The big adage was, we'll figure it out when we get there. And I was like, I never liked that. I hated that term. And I was like, no, I want to know what we're going to do, at least 3 different things that we can narrow it down to. And I'll practice on those. I'm happy for you, man. I'm happy that you're at a place that facilitates and that you can facilitate firemanship.
Are you going to take opportunities to still go to some conferences here and there, or are you going to have to be pretty dialed in to just focus on this for a bit?
Well, for the next, I'd say 6 to 8 months, I got to be dialed in. It's Monday through Friday schedule, weekends off. Some of those weekends I might work overtime back in fire. So I'm not 100% out on fire, but for sure after EMS school and I take my national registry and God willing I pass, they'll pick my gear up and I won't no longer have it. And I won't have a choice whether to work OT back at the front lines, so to speak. It is what it is. It's a means to an end, and I've seen worse other places. I can't complain too much. I love my department. I truly do. We're not perfect. We can try. We can certainly try to get there. Right now, big thing with my department, and I think it's going on everywhere in the country, is recruiting. Everybody's hurting for recruiting numbers. I think that's a bigger picture than we can really handle. I think our contract negotiation is going on right now, and even though I don't have any control over that, I don't know if that's necessarily the underlying factor towards this nationwide epidemic of trying to recruit young people to do this job. And that's probably a conversation for another day, but it's just so big of an issue. It's just a sign of the times today.
What's changed for you and how you view fires since we talked last? I mean, I know you're always thinking on it and learning from calls you've been on. Have you changed anything, even small tweaks, technique-wise or tactic-wise or concept-wise? I'm
going to die on that hill that I think attack should take priorities at fires for the sake of life safety. That's what Andy said. That's his underlying message. That's the message I've been pushing on Andy Frederick's Ghost. I hope everybody realizes it's not a disrespectful moniker like we talked about. And I actually did get permission from his widow to use that name. We've had a conversation. And how do I approach fires? I still approach it in that way, because if you do, you can't go wrong. Default aggressive. Attack the fire, don't react to the fire. Everything does get better when you put it out. Even just applying water makes things better. That's something I've seen over and over again. That's something I can tell you that guy that's got 30 plus years on the nozzle could tell you. That's just straight experience-based knowledge, which is backed by science. I still approach it that way. And just the other day, I was on the nozzle. We had a really good first due worker. I wish I recorded it. We made a push inside. Fire was rolling out of the garage, out of the eaves, heavy smoke, and made a push, put it out relatively fast with less than a tank. The entire structure was filled with smoke. I saved a cat, pulled it out, still breathing, still alive today. The owner was petting it. That fire also teaches you something else. I showed up. There was already several other pets dead before we could even do anything. On the front yard, they were dead. I've had numerous fire fatalities. People, your best efforts, things could still go wrong. We're not perfect. We're subject to human error. The best thing that can give us the most amount of leeway And the most amount of margin for error is to prioritize attack, right? Don't be reactive to the fire, be proactive, right? Let's not introduce more factors. Let's introduce a constant to the fire. Let's introduce what we know is going to have the positive impact first and foremost. I've used the adage of an active shooter outside of San Antonio is Uvalde. Everybody knows that tragedy. The fire and an active shooter resemble each other very, very much. You eliminate the threat, you stop people from dying, more people, and potentially becoming one yourself. We can't stop people from dying if we don't stop the killing, right? So that's the adage we use when we do our RTF. Stop the killing, stop the dying. Not to get off on a tangent, but yeah, just approaching fires that same way. I hope to never lose that, because that was Andy Frederick's underlying message. Has rubbed a lot of people wrong. Frankly, I don't care, because I feel in my heart of hearts that it's true. And that's never to say that we don't do anything else at fires. We row heavy, and it doesn't matter if we row heavy or not. Manpower doesn't dictate tactics. At least it shouldn't. We should have a tactical priority. Fire doesn't care whether you show up with 30 people or 2. We still need to do what's best for the people that pay us, frankly. And the thing that's going to give us that biggest impact is prioritizing attack and eliminating the threat, or at the very least keeping it at bay and its head down with cover fire. But yeah, I'm excited for this new chapter. I hope to never forget the things I've learned. I still write. I've written a bunch of things that I've never put out. And sometimes I thought, man, I want to do it. And then it's like, is it really helping anybody for me to put this out? Because a lot of people are saying the same things right now, which is okay. That just means the fire service has moved to a point where we're in a lot of agreement on a lot of things, because it's evident. It's self-evident, which is good. It's a good thing. I'm happy that it's gotten to that place. And that's kind of why the secondary motive is, I hope I don't sound egotistical. They'll do all right without me. They'll do all right without me. The fire service as a whole.
A colleague and a friend just a couple of days ago sent me one of your articles. I'm like, I know this guy. I'm talking to him Friday.
That's awesome.
See, your work's out there and it's getting spread around, and even up here.
One thing I wish would have came out, I read it on the back of the newly published Andy Frederick's, the Book of Andy, was that he was in the midst of writing a book. I can only imagine what would have been on there. I can only imagine. And it's just tragic, but also too, he left us with a legacy for us to build on. It was for us to kind of figure out what his underlying message was. And the best probably way to say that was, if you put the fire out, you won't have to jump out of a window. And you flip that, you put the fire out, it's only going to make everything better.
I think last time we talked, you were mentoring a new rookie. You've probably mentored a number of them. What's your thoughts? How are they doing? What's your thoughts on the future of the fire service? And are you seeing the young guys pick this up as hard as you did?
I'll be the first to be like, man, we're not getting as many people that want to put in for this job. And then there are certainly those that probably don't come in capable from day one. But I've been very fortunate on getting some studs across my path. And maybe it has to do it absolutely has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the station I'm at and the pedigree that is of Station 8 in San Antonio. We don't get no shitheads. We get guys that if you don't know how to work or you have a bad attitude, you're gone. And we've had nothing but solid studs come through. And I'm happy that I'm getting backfilled by some solid guys. If anything, if I've left a legacy, if I can even call it that, it's that I've put hands and I've touched hose with every single probie or rookie that's come through the station. And this is back in my times at my previous company. Every single one, we at least touched some hose. We went over hose handling because that's the one skill that gets overlooked, and it's the one that gets overestimated, and it's the one that everybody feels like I got it well figured out until it's time to open it up, and they can't keep it open for more than 5 to 10 seconds at a time. And it's hey, nothing's going to get better if you can't do that, man. So I really harp on it to the point where it's almost like, geez, we're going to do hose handling again. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, we can throw ladders too. The basics, you should be good in all the basics. We don't have a door up, or I'll be forcing doors all day. We throw ladders, we deploy hose. And if there's anything that a legacy that I felt like I've left, it's I've worked with every single rookie or pro that's come through my path. And part of that too is I didn't want to get stagnant in my skill set or stagnant in being able to perform at fires. Case in point was that last fire, pushing from the door all the way to the fire room. Didn't let off the gas until things got better. And having a way to do that and that was second nature than overthink. That's the point I want everybody else that I work with to get to. I'm real proud that I tried to at least push that. It all runs in line. It all builds on each other, and it upholds to the mantra that I believe every firefighters are a nozzleman, or at least should be. And just like every Marine's a rifleman, you got to be able to shoot.
Do you have an expectation with them that they do a deeper dive into the why? Do you get them into the meat of the data in the books?
Something I heard a Navy SEAL say, and I'm losing his name right now. They had asked him, well, what grain bullet do you like? And he's like, shit, I don't know. It was, I just shoot people in the head. I'm the end user. And I was like, the end user? What does that mean? Wait a minute. I was like, he's the end user. And I kind of found a lot of benefit from him saying that. And he explained it. I'm the end user. Do I got to know the nomenclature and how to build the rifle and how to, I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I kind of get that, but he also knows how to pie a door. He knows he has to learn the whole set of skill sets. It goes back to jack of all trades, masters of none, which I've never liked. I think be a master of one and then try to be a jack of the rest of the trades, right? That was something he kind of built on. He's like, I'm the end user. I got to know how to blow a door. I got to know how to clear a building and not get my buddies killed and shoot them in the back when they're helping me clear a room. And I was like, it was just a little eye-opening that we are the end users of a lot of these thousands of moving parts of equipment, of fire trucks and SOPs. And I think for me, just trying to eliminate a lot of the fluff and the riffraff has kind of been my goal as of late. Like, hey man, yes, this is good to know this. If you have time, and I think you should take a deeper dive, read the quantitative approach of nozzle selection of flow 1 and 2, because it's going to further build on why I believe the nozzle is more important than any other tool on the fireground. Because I sound like just a blowhard if I were to just say the nozzle is the most important tool on the fireground. Well, why? Well, because given our response times and all that stuff, flashover times and gas contraction, air entrainment, try to ease it in there instead of forcing it down their throat, because we are the end users, right? I'd rather they know how to be aggressive and keep the nozzle open and then tell them, hey, it's going to work, trust me. And then I'll build on it later. A lot of times we do train backwards in my department, or when I at my station, when I had them, I was like, first thing we're going to do is go get on the line, flow water. We're not going to deploy it. We're going to flow a line, pull a line without going over that. You're going to stretch it. You're going to flow water first. You're going to learn the technique, learn how to actually handle the hose to where it doesn't kick you in the ass. And then we're going to go through it the rest of the day. We'll deploy some hose. Then we'll go over fire dynamics. I show them that how first and then the why later. I have to do it that way just because of the way our day's built up and how busy we are as a department and as a station. Building on the why, I would like for them to get really interested on that. But it seems like every day, too, we're being inundated with just extra stuff. I think that's where I was trying to get with this, is that to try to streamline it and take out all the other bullshit and whittle it down to the, hey, this is what you need to know. And here's the opportunity. Here's the avenue to learn more. But this is what you need to know right now. And it almost seemed like I oversimplified it to certain people, even maybe certain other people in the fire service. You're making it too simple. And it's like, I don't think there's a too simple. Albert Einstein came up with a theory of everything in one word. I'm not Albert Einstein, but I can tell you how to put out a fire. And really, it just takes hard work, and you can't be scared. You have to outwork the fire and not be scared at the same time, and trust in the process. Told you the story where I trusted Andy's writings and him preaching, keeping the nozzle open to save my life on more than one occasion. You have to trust in the process. And really the only way to do that is to learn as much as you can, But when you're strapped for time, like most of the time I am when I'm working with these new guys, they have to have a little bit of trust in me too. And the best way to do that is to prove it on the fire ground that it's going to work.
Yeah, I guess you can help them flake out the line, but you don't want to have to grab the nozzle out of their hand and take care of business if they're not versed on it.
Everything's cool in theory until they're like, well, yeah, the nozzle's open, until you have to do it. Everything's cool in theory until you have to do it. And you're like, wait a minute. In that position that they're preaching right now out in the fire service, the nozzle slides a little bit. And oh, wait a minute, my pass device is in that way when I put it under my armpit. Well, shit, Manny didn't, or whoever didn't tell me this. So there I go. Hey, man, get that shit deep in your armpit and use it like an extra pair of hands. Because if you can't do that, none of this other bullshit I'm teaching you about fire dynamics is gonna work. It builds on itself. That's why I have to start at the nozzle. For me, that's my preference. Is I like to start at the nozzle and build back. I always tell them that's where the rubber meets the road. I've been saying it for years. Like that's where the rubber meets the road. It doesn't matter what you're pumping or your pump operator's pumping. If you can't keep the nozzle open, none of it's going to do any good. And people kind of skewed my words and saying we're all important. Can't put one above the other. And so yeah, you can. There's one guy that's in the most danger, and that's how we have to build our priority. And there's one guy that's going to have the biggest impact on the fire, and usually that's the lowest rank. For us, it's the lowest rank, and those are the guys that need to be the most comfortable at that position. As of late, I've been talking about that and hoping that more people understand it, that the most important members are the ones on the back of the truck. I've talked about it before, about my time in the service. The higher ranks ate last, and it went down from there. We had this sort of inverted pyramid in the fire service where the captain or the chief gets to eat first before the lowest ranks. And it's like, man, it just never seemed right to me, because in the Marines, we didn't do it like that. Get up there, boot, you're eating first. And I tell the rookies to do that, or the probies that look at me weird. I was like, hey, dude, I'm not messing around. Go eat, because I'm not eating till you eat. You get frustrating. Oh, these guys, they're so conditioned by all the other stations they go to that these guys with time in think that that equals importance, when nothing could be further from the truth. It's the ones that are going to be doing all the work and the most danger are the ones that are the most important. And if anything, I'd like to see changes that are more focused on that and listening to those guys that are doing it, because they're the ones that are still actively doing what we like to talk about on the nozzle, right? I probably fought my last fire on the nozzle the other day. And the realization of that, it is what it is, sad, but I also left it all out there. It's no longer about me anymore. It's about the white letters. We call them the lowest ranks, the firefighters. I got red letters now, so I'm not as important anymore. I'm there to lead. We call it this weird thing of servant leadership in the fire service, but really it's just leadership. They come before us, and we need to stop with this inverted pyramid of the higher you are, the more important you are, which I truly do not believe that. I don't believe it. I'd like to see that fixed, and that's another part of why I'm promoting. I want to lead by example. I want to be eaten last.
As you get further into your career, are you seeing guys that you mentored now mentor others? Are you seeing that ripple effect?
Yeah. The other day, there's some guys at my station. We like to bust each other's balls on other shifts, but we really respect everybody, because you can't be where we're at and be a shithead. Like, you cannot be where we're at. And just off the top, I was kind of eavesdropping on a conversation. One of the other guys from another shift was working with us and talking to our rookie, and he repeated something that I had told him probably a few years before. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. I don't need to go say, hey, I told you that. No, it's for everybody to hopefully gain from and believe in. Because if you truly believe in the mission, you're willing to go all the way, all the way. And that's the way you get people to buy in, is you have to believe in the mission. And if you believe in it, you're going to go all the way. No, that made me both proud and just content with, maybe I left it just a little bit better than how I found it. You know, you're not going to get everybody to like you. You got to come to terms with that. They're just not going to like, some people are just not going to like you. And that's okay. It's okay. But it's not also not your job to make people not like you. You got to take everything with a grain of salt. There's some days that we don't train and we don't do anything, because it's like, you got to fill the room, man. You got to fill it out. Like, sometimes some of those days are better left recharging your batteries because we're going to get our asses pounded at night. Other places might not have it to where they can train all day. And that's kind of one of those things that always irked me. You got to take the entire fire service with a grain of salt. Not everybody's in your situation. So you got to play the playbook isn't always going to be the same. It might be a little bit different from department to department.
Are you connecting more and more with other people in other departments and building that network?
I'd say less. I'm connecting less. I still get people that message me. I have gone to teach here and there, but without beating my chest like I'm some Billy Badass off the block, because I'm not. I say I'm teaching less because my focus has mainly been my department and my career as of late. I feel like I've dedicated the last 8 years or so to trying to learn my craft and trying to go out and meet people and intermingle and stuff. But I'm now at the point where if I kept doing that, I would be avoiding my department or not putting my department as a priority. The two are not mutually exclusive. You can still go do both, but you can't do all three where it's your department, other departments, and your family. And it's like, nah, I mean, you can try, but I can't. And I'm not, the other people can probably do it, but I can't. I can only wear so many hats. And I was even the FTO for my department for the last almost the entire time. I became an FTO fairly soon, and I gave up that position and for promotion. So I've been more focused internally on my department. I still try to read stuff. I still try to read what's out there, but also for personal development, reading books that have nothing to do with the fire service. Just trying to expand my horizons a little bit as a person. Not that there's anything wrong. Everybody's at different stages of their career, and I'm at that stage where I just want to lay low for a little bit, focus on my career, and be a better firefighter, and hopefully come back sooner rather than later and try to preach, not be preachy, but try to preach the good message of Andy again, because I truly believe in it. And I'm willing to go all the way with it. Probably lost a lot of friends through that, but that's okay. It's no skin off my teeth.
It's going to be interesting to talk to you as you go through this process and the instructors you run into and your perspective on which ones are the dialed in ones and which ones aren't, and who you're going to align with as maybe a mentor. That'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. Because like I mentioned earlier, we have some top tier medics. We won a world award. I think I might have mentioned that to you, a world award in our EMS system. We're the first to give whole blood. We're the first to do IOs, drilling into the bone. We do finger thoracotomies. We do needle decompressions. Those are things that I've been doing already as a basic. So our doctor, he's a very progressive, very aggressive doctor when it comes to pre-hospital medicine. And I see that and I was like, man, that's interesting. That's interesting. I wish we were a little more aggressive on the fire side. And San Antonio goes through a lot of fires. It's the best kept secret in the country. We go to a lot of fires. You name some of the bigger cities that get a little more notoriety because they can record just by the law of averages. We're a bigger, older city. We go to a lot of fires, and that's not bragging. It's the truth. I've had several youngsters hit me up like, hey, what do you think about me going over? Man, come on. Come put in. You want to gain a lot of fire experience? I'll be honest with you, we're not the most progressive when it comes to the fire side because we're a big ship, and not only do we turn slow, we got guys turning in the opposite direction against you. So keeping that in mind, you're going to gain a lot of fire experience. It might not be in the way you want. So that's why I took that objective of nobody can really tell you what to do on the nozzle and how much to keep it open. They can tell me not to ventilate on the roof. They can tell me not to, hey, you can't go do a search this way or that way, or don't even throw ladders on the, like they can tell you all that outside shit, but they can't tell me when not to open the nozzle. That was a very tactical or tact to gain a upper hand on implementing being more aggressive on attack. And some of the biggest proponents I've had were my officers. My latest one has given me the most freedom just because he sees I was vested and a self-starter in that sense. And it was just the perfect merging of scenarios. Going to the busiest house for fires in the city and still have the opportunity to implement that. And then not only that, the house captain, me approaching him as tactfully as I could, like, hey, can we run Minutemans, off of our cross lays? And anybody else could have just given a lot of pushback, but they were open to that idea. Not only him, but all three shifts. And like I said, the perfect merging of opportunity, preparation and opportunity, right? Preparing to go and do what I want to do, and then having the opportunity to do what I'm prepared to do. And it's just been beautiful. The only regret is I wish I could have recorded all this stuff that I've seen. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but that's just something they wouldn't let us do. It was like a cardinal sin. They see you with a camera on your ass is grass. That's just a bad thing with any big department. A lot of red tape. They'll cripple you with liability, and they'll use it, the word liability, to get what they want in other ways. It's just a terrible fact of life. Everybody's just trying to cover their own ass. Nobody seems to think about the people in all of this and how it's going to affect them by us being better prepared, and maybe using that video to make us better prepared and tell us, hey, man, this is what's going on. This is why I did this. And look at what I told you was going to happen is happening. Just kind of a tragedy, so to speak.
You mentioned Uvalde. Do you guys have tactical medics that work with the SWAT team?
Yeah, we have some bad dudes, man. We have some badass dudes. Matter of fact, they work out of the building. There's a police building right next to my house. So we see the SWAT always go out with these medics. They're solid. They have a little bit higher level of training. They get to go out with them on raids and stuff like that. So, they're, if I had already said we have some of the best medics in the country, now those guys are some of the best medics in the world, bar none. They're good at what they do. And God willing, I'll become one of those medics that gets a lot of experience. And I guess that's the name of the game, the experience level you can get. And you got to balance it out with training. If you can do both, you're in a very good opportunity.
Are you drawn to any specific aspect of paramedicine, like cardiac? Are you into trauma? What's your feeling on what your wheelhouse is going to be?
We get a lot of both. I mean, obviously it's a lot of medical stuff, but we get a lot of traumatic stuff, and a lot of it's just tragedy based. Think about it later, like, man, that sucked. But we get a lot of both, and I think I would be more drawn to the traumatic aspect of it. Obviously, the medical stuff is stuff that could be prevented just by taking certain courses throughout your life and try to avoid some stuff. But the traumatic is stuff that usually nobody wanted to happen and nobody expected it. Offline, I could tell you just his last story that was just a tragedy, how just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Within the last week, this instance happened, and just the wrong place at the wrong time. And those are the things that kind of draw me, like, man, if you could save somebody's life just because they were wrong place at the wrong time, that would mean more to me than telling this person, hey, man, you should take better care of yourself. So that would lead me a little more towards the traumatic stuff, even though I've been around it. And that would be what I'm more knowledgeable off of at the face of it.
How many hours you got to put on the bus as part of your course?
I put in about 4 hours today trying to get a VPN set up because I'm not a computer whiz, and we had to set that up for the courses that I'm going to take for the paramedic class. But I know it's going to be a lot. Like, we're going to be there every day, and we do write outs with our units. So that's a good thing. We're learning from our medics. Yeah, I couldn't tell you right off the bat how many hours, but it's pretty aggressive. From everybody I've heard, they're like, hey, man, you think you float a lot of water. Picture yourself drinking from that nozzle now of information in the next few months. And I'm like, dang.
Do you have to do any hospital rounds in the ER or?
Yes, we do. We do a stint of that. And like I said, write out with our medics, which is good. It's not overwhelming when you do your write outs. It's just like we're taking a small snippet of the day to do that. So it's that part's not horrible. But these are the things I've been doing for the last 8 years, and you're just doing a little different side of it, which is not too crazy. I think it's an interesting point in my career. It's a means to an end. Again, I want to be an officer. God willing, I become an officer, I get to make a difference. My officer, he actually wrote to me, don't stop there, Manny. Become an officer, make a difference. And those are some of the meaningful words I've heard from somebody I've worked with, and I've heard them. A lot of guys I work with, but those are some of them that gave me a cigar box that read, there's no way I'll make one. It was in Latin. I'm probably butchering that up, but there's no way I will find one. I mean, that's what he thinks of me, is that I've had that attitude that don't take no for an answer if I truly believe in what I believe in. And that's where it's gotten me to this point. And I think I'm always going to keep that mentality of doing the right thing no matter what it costs me. I'm excited.
I think you're going to do just fine. The people on the road are going to be lucky to have you in that aspect.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And you, in the meantime, man, you keep killing it. Keep kicking butt. And I'm going to keep up with you and make sure we never lose touch. And hopefully when I come back to the fire service, I'm able to contribute again and in a positive way. Hopefully we'll link up at some point.
Yeah, man. You're the first one to do 3 episodes, so.
Oh, that's cool.
You're in the lead.
That's awesome. Man, you've had some heavy hitters on here, man.
Yeah, you included, man. You included.
Oh,
it's been good. Yeah.
I've learned from those heavy hitters and yourself as well.
Yeah, it's been a really good mix. A lot of good people out there.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your time, man. And anybody listening, if there's anything I can do for you. And I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity as well, Scott, for just being able to talk to the fire service. Maybe not a lot of people will agree with the things that I say, and I think maybe there's some that'll take some benefit from it. And that's all I've tried to do my time. I don't want to make a name for myself. I don't want to be famous. I don't want any of that stuff. Matter of fact, I'm gonna lay low for the next 3 years. But if there's anything I could do that's helped me, I would be more than happy to share that with anybody. These were experiences gained on the front lines that scared me. They scared me so that I wanted to preach and at least share that message that, hey, man, I did this when I was scared for my life. And that's me speaking from a combat veteran's perspective. I've been scared for my life before numerous times, but I also care enough about the guys that I've been with at every step of the way that you can mitigate those things with training and knowledge, and me preaching with tears in my eyes. And I think every chance I've had where I've got a probie or a rookie, they see that I'm not full of shit and that I care about them. And I tell them, hey, I love you, man. I'm out here pulling you out here because I love you. I don't have to know you to love you because you're a brother. You're wearing that shirt with our department. You're wearing that firefighter badge. So when we go to this place of unknowns, just know I'm not leaving you in there. And I expect you to not leave me in there. But at the same time, I'm not going to put you in a stupid position. That's where it's come from the heart. I hope everybody that's listening knows that, and I think they will. And I appreciate you. Again, we got to stick together as a family. We've got hard times coming. I love each and every one of y'all that's listening. Like I said, again, anything I could do, don't hesitate to reach out.